So, welcome back to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win, and this will be a quick one, comes from Dylan H. and The Mask, who asked the question, well, actually, The Mask and Dylan H. That's the order the suggestion came in. Who would win the fight? Leprechaun, from the Leprechaun series, versus Leatherface. Okay, you want the short answer right now, so we don't have to continue to be it? Leprechaun will win. It's pretty... Okay, let's obviously... I gotta be fair here, and I want the video to be more than 30 seconds long. So, obviously, the Leprechaun is a leprechaun. He has magical powers. I will say, and I think I bring this up in, like, Pennywise when I did him in Pennywise, his powers do seem to have limitations. It's just where those limitations lie seem to be very vague. Like, he can't just do anything he wants, but he can pretty much do a lot. Like, he can just teleport where he wants to teleport most of the time. But there seems to be a limitation, probably like within his line of sight, I think is his limitation. Otherwise, he could just appear literally anywhere he wanted in the world, and that's just not how he functions. He can just make things randomly appear. He turned I think a combination of a tractor and a few other things into a go-kart of death in the first movie. He can possess people through their urine, which is weird in a leprechaun in space. He's much stronger than he looks. And I think the biggest advantage he ultimately has is that his durability is actually through the roof because, I mean, again, if you actually put him against someone like, say, Doctor Strange, and maybe, I don't know, I don't think that's the suggestion they've been given, but at some point I'm sure it will be. Put him against someone like Doctor Strange. Oh no, Doctor Strange whipped the leprechaun's ass because in terms of actual magic, Doctor Strange far exceeds this guy in power. So do something like that, sure. But if you're talking about just standard real-world people, like Leatherface technically is, then the Leprechaun's durability is kind of through the roof because you can hurt him technically. Like, he got his hand chopped off by a door. So maybe it's just because he was old and rotten and all that stuff. But he can just reattach it, regen, all that. Like, he still feels pain. He can be shot and all that stuff and clubbed, but he'll just get back up from it. That being said, his weaknesses do include the four-leaf clover patch, throwing shoes at him to make him shine them, and iron because he is Fey. So the rule of ancient lore in like Ireland and stuff like that is that Fey are weakened by iron. So Leatherface is a mentally stunted, I think is a good way to put it. He's not a bright individual. He is part of a hillbilly cannibalistic serial killer family. And he's the head of the household, more or less. He has to protect the family. Well, actually, most of the time we actually see Leatherface in a lot of these movies, he's responding out of fear, more or less. Fear for protecting his family. But he's still a family man. That's why he wears the tie and all that stuff. So, he's got to provide, and providing includes butchering people and eating them. As such, he is very, skilled with a, meat hammer, his trusty dusty chainsaw. And to be fair, for a guy, he's a big, beefy guy. He's actually very powerful, I imagine. That said, like I said, it's been widely stated that he's very likely is mentally retarded, or he is at minimum mentally stunted. He seems to kind of like have the mentality of a child in many ways, despite being a guy who's clearly somewhere in his 30s, maybe 40s. So, yeah, it's not the brightest bulb in the batch. And that I actually think is one of the Leatherface's big hindrances in a lot of these fights. Like when I put him up against Michael Myers, I think ultimately I had Myers win that fight. I can't remember what that was a while ago. I think Myers ultimately won. Like I think I put him up against Jason. Jason clearly wins that fight, and that's not because of necessarily intelligence. That's just due to the fact that Jason's too durable to be put down. At least not by a chainsaw. I mean, not by a chainsaw. Just starting to like hack into him. If you were to surprise him with which how the hell do you surprise someone with a chainsaw? It's running as loud as it is. And just like take his head off. Yeah, you would in theory kill Jason then. But that's the problem. Like a lot of these more like Leatherface versus Freddy, for example. Leatherface is not smart enough to take on Freddy. Like anyone with competent intelligence and strategy can easily, and having something else on a person like a gun or something. Like when I put him against Negan, that's a perfect example. Negan's far more intelligent and can actually strategize and all that, whereas Leatherface really doesn't. He's just kind of responding out of habit, fear, and instinct. So what happens in this fight? Well, Leprechaun is looking for me gold, and he thinks he found it at their place, and maybe he just kills all the family. And Leatherface sees him there sitting around with the corpses of his family, revs the chainsaw, and they go to town. Now, the one thing I can at least give Leatherface a little bit is that I'm sure the Leprechaun might try to stop the chainsaw, but remember that steel is a carbon alloy of iron. Now, it's not pure iron, and I don't know if it's pure iron that we deal with in Fey lore. My guess is yes, but that's because they couldn't make steel at that point. At least not in the same vein we can make it today. So, I guess in theory the chainsaw could in fact hurt the Leprechaun on a more damaging scale. But the problem is, maybe after getting hit once or twice, realizing he can't stop the chainsaw, he's like, well, okay then, and just kind of destroys the chainsaw. Like, just destroys the gas that's powering it or whatever, and then just starts to mess with Leatherface until Leatherface starts to cry on the floor and then just breaks his neck or something. This really is a curb stomp in Leprechaun's favor here, in my opinion. Now, to be fair, in theory, if he were to maybe just shove the chainsaw in Leprechaun and keep it there, and if a chainsaw has enough iron in it to hurt the Leprechaun on a much more intense scale, he could just stick him into the ground in the floorboard and leave him there, and that counts as a win for Leatherface. So there is a vague scenario here where Leatherface could pull out a win, but that's hindering on the idea that that the iron in the steel alloy would be enough to hurt Leprechaun, and B, Leprechaun is just going to stand there and take being cut in half and stuck to the floor, and C, that once he's stuck to the floor, he won't be able to actually do much because he is impaled by an iron alloy chainsaw. So that is a slim chance of victory based on 3 uncertain probabilities. So, yes, in that really, really vague scenario, which is probably even less than 1%, I guess Leatherface could pull off a win for as long as the Leprechaun stays stuck in the floor. But here's the thing. The iron, I don't know if it negates his magic. So even though he might be impaled for a while, he eventually might be like, he's just trying to get it out and just finally he's able to get out, but he's maybe injured and retreats. So maybe Leatherface wins that match, but then Leprechaun comes back and just screws him and kills him just outright. So, yes, in a weird 0.5% chance based on a laundry list of unlikely probabilities, there might be a scenario where Leatherface ekes out a temporary victory. But let's not kid ourselves. It's Leprechaun. But what do you think? Maybe I'm completely blowing smoke out my ass. Maybe it really is Leatherface who takes all the victories every day, or the majority at least. I highly doubt it, but what do you think? Put it in the comments below and let me know. But until then, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, you want us to review something, put it in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. And hit that bell if you want to be notified. Thanks for watching, and the What If will also be up a little later today. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.